Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Alex Dworkin and I'm a managing partner at 4D Capital. Happy Friday, everyone. Definitely feels like it for me. Just very quickly, we specialize in a very unique mathematical approach to the stock market where we analyze the market and individual stocks in multidimensional space. And when we do, essentially perfect order emerges. On top of that, we've developed a number of very powerful timing indicators. And when we combine them together, we can very often predict what the overall stock market or individual stocks will do in both time and price. And we can typically do it on multiple time frames. Whether we're talking about long-term or short-term doesn't really matter. So I personally believe our work is nearly identical to what Jim Simmons was able to accomplish at Renaissance Technologies, if you're familiar with Jim. So our firm's goal, very quickly, is to essentially identify stocks that will 2x, 5x, 10x, and do so within a relatively short period of time. And of course, I think that's the goal for everyone. But in this particular situation, we have a very special weapon. And the weapon we have is the software we've developed over the last couple of years that helps us calculate the market in that three-dimensional space. And it narrows down the number of stocks that we look at. So we have the ability, essentially, for example, to scan their entire S&P 500, calculate it in multidimensional space, make projections. And what's so important with our work is we are able to identify exact tops or bottoms. In this particular situation, if we're looking for the next NVIDIA, Bitcoin, Apple, Tesla, and so forth, it is very important for us to identify those bottoms. And then when we do, our software is not only able to pinpoint it in time and price, it is also able to make projections of what that individual stock is going to do going forward. So we can essentially know which stocks will 2x, 5x, 10x going forward with a very small margin, within a very small margin of error associated with trading them. Okay. So with that in mind, today we're going to be analyzing, or we're going to reviewing one of our 52 mega cap stocks, which is Costco. And so far, Costco has been following our exact forecast. The top has arrived a little bit sooner than our initial projections, which was made in the beginning of the year. But nevertheless, the stock is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Let me just very quickly jump in and introduce what you're seeing here on the chart, and then I'll jump back into the forecast for Costco, what it's going to do going forward over the next couple of months and over the next couple of years. If you don't want to listen to it, if you're familiar with our work, please skip forward probably 2 to 3 minutes, and you'll be in the midst of the analysis. So the triangles you see on top and the bottom of the chart is what we would call cycle composites. And the bottom composites are responsible for the bottoms, and top composites are responsible for the tops. So this is a very simplistic representation of very complex mathematical concept where we scan the market in multidimensional space. Our software identifies these cycles and then projects them into the future. What makes matter a little bit more complicated is that there are typically multiple composites running for the down cycles and upper cycles. So for example, Dow Jones has 2 composites running for the bottom and 2 composites running for the top. But if you put them together, if you know how to put them together, you can very closely replicate what you see on a 2-dimensional time and price chart in terms of the movement of this underlying stock itself. Okay, so the lines you see here are basically, we call them cycle clusters. Once again, very simplistic representation of very complex mathematical concept. And what we do, we have on top of this, we've developed a number of our own proprietary cycles. And same thing, we scan the market in 3-dimensional space, we identify them and we project them into the future. But what we found is very important. What we found is that important turning points in the stock or the overall stock market happen not when any particular individual cycle arrives, but when there's a cluster of cycles arrive at the same time. The more the better. So if there's 2, 5, 10, the more the better. And the longer term, or the more powerful they are. Once again, it depends on the time frame you're looking at, whether it's intraday, daily, or longer term. But generally, the longer term the cycle, the more numerous they are, the higher the probability of a turning point happening there. As a matter of fact, if we have, for example, have 10 cycles arriving on the same day, rest assured there's going to be a turning point there. Whether it's top or, whether the stock bottoms or tops, that's a different discussion. And it's typically, it is very clear on that day because the stock is either going to be going into a top or declining into a bottom for quite a long time. So I'm sorry, not December, but March of 2009, March 6th bottom, very important bottom, is a perfect indication of that. At that time, we had 15 long-term cycles arriving within a 3-day period of time. And of course, as we know, we had a long bear market and we moving into that completion point. So it was very easy to predict the bottom at that juncture because we had so many cycles there. So jumping back to the forecast for Costco. So because these cycle composites get us into the neighborhood and essentially cycle clusters give us the exact date of an upcoming turning point. So here's what's happening, okay? Very briefly, very short forecast. We've seen the top here. This was the top that we saw earlier in the year. And then now we're declining into this mid-cycle bottom. This mid-cycle bottom needs to be extended because this cycle shifted to a little bit earlier, as I discussed earlier. So we have to shift it into this time frame. And if you look at that time frame, it is approximately May of 2026, and with the possibility of extension into the third, even the fourth quarter of 2026. So at this point in time, we'll just look at the end of May juncture because it's a really good juncture. But the price variable when that time arrives will tell us whether or not the stock is bottoming. Okay, so we're moving into the bottom from the top right here, and then once that bottom is put in place, we're going to increase into this major top that is scheduled for March of 2029, and this particular major top is going to be above the prior high. So we're correcting now. Once the correction is over, the stock will increase. The question becomes, what are the price targets we're talking about? Where's the stock going to bottom, and subsequently, where is it going to run up to? So let's take a closer look at this. Now, I know this probably doesn't make any sense to you. This represents our three-dimensional calculations, or calculations in three-dimensional space, and it makes perfect sense to us. So listen up, I'm just going to explain it. So once again, we are declining into a major bottom for the stock scheduled for either May of 2026 or the end of third quarter of 2026. And we're looking at really two possibilities. This particular region, which is located at, let's say, $735 plus or minus $15. And if this region is broken, then we're going to fall into this particular region, which is, let's say, approximately $600 plus or minus a few bucks. So those are the two levels we're looking at. If Costco is able to break below $720, so keep that particular level in mind. If stock breaks below $720 before May of 2026, then we're going lower, okay? But if we find ourselves within this region, when the May time cycle arrives, there's a very high probability that's going to be the bottom. And it's still quite a few months ahead, so we'll just reevaluate at that point in time. But if we break this level, then we go into at least this level, and this level is at $600 approximately, right? And we'll know once again when we combine time and price which scenario is playing out. But for the overall purposes, this particular move is not of any particular interest, especially on the short side. It's still risky. The move is not significant enough to justify taking a short position at this juncture. But we kind of putting the stock in a waiting room, because once this bottom that we talk about in 2026 arrives, the stock is going to rip higher. Okay, so let's assume it bottoms at $600 a share. It's going to go to a new all-time high of at least $1,200 a share. So that's 100% return within 2 to 3 year period of time. But we didn't even calculate how high it's going to go. It's probably going to go quite a bit higher. We'll do that as we approach the bottom. Once again, there's nothing to do at this point in time, and that's the power of our analytical capability. That's the power of our software. We know, most importantly, we know when to do things. So as is the case here, we know not to do anything with Costco. But when the time comes, which is going to be next year, we know Costco will represent a very, very good or very profitable opportunity for long-term holders. Okay, so that's it for Costco. We do have a couple of things available. We have a free service or free trial associated with our service. The service itself is fairly expensive, but we have a 30-day trial, no strings attached, no credit cards, none of that. So if you would be interested in seeing the exact targeting associated with stocks like Costco and 52 other mega caps, currencies, commodities, overall market, fast movers, super equities, just a treasure trove of information available to you, please request a free trial. All you have to do is click on the link in our description of this video, and we'll send you login information. Also, we have a free webinar coming up next Friday, and I believe it's October 17th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be it's going to be limited to 10 people, but I think you're going to find it quite interesting because we talk about a number of things. We're talking about how we calculate the market in multidimensional space. We showcase our software, and most importantly, we talk about the overall stock market. So we typically shy away from talking about the overall stock market and its current composition because that's our bread and butter. But during this particular webinar, you're going to be able to see our analysis, what the market's doing now, what it's going to do in the future, and obviously you can profit quite significantly from that. So go ahead, the link to the webinar is also in the description of this video. So click on the link, register, and I think you're going to find that it's time well spent. That's it for today. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend ahead, and we'll be back with more analysis as soon as Monday. Bye-bye.